Good news, good news, good news. And it doesn't have to do with just the fact that this is a newspaper, how to use newspapers as a research source presentation, but good news in that this is the only source you have to look at this week. So we're going to be talking about using newspapers not just for information gathering, but as part of an overall plan for research. You see there's two images before you on the screen. I'm certain you can tell which one refers to newspapers of yesteryear and which one refers to newspapers of today. They both have information. They both are crafted in the most engaging style of that time. But the one on the right, of course, is a newspaper from the time of the end of World War I, New York Times to be exact. And the other one is kind of like an image that represents the modern day world of news. And that we really shouldn't call it newspapers because more and more, as I'm sure you've heard, possibly, news reporting is going onto the web. So let us move on. Okay, these are the sections that we're about to talk about. I'm not going to read them to you now. If you wish, excuse me, I keep bouncing up and down. I know I should stop that. If you wish, you are more than welcome to pause the video and look at them, but we're moving on. Okay, why use news stories for research? Well, why would you use those? Because it's another valid source of information that may give you information, thoughts that you wouldn't get in any other way. So you use the news to do research, gathering as much information that you can put into your overall research bag to find the information that you need. And also, what can you find in a news story you may not find in other sources? Well, stop and think about the modern day when they call the journalists that go to the fronts of conflicts around the world embedded. They're embedded in that they are there when things are happening. So they can be witnesses, eyewitness accounts of what's going on. Which, unless you're reading someone's memoirs, you're not going to get an eyewitness account. So it can be a way to get information that you won't find in other sources. Unique information sometimes even. Now, this raises a question that you see before you. What should you be careful about when you're using news stories as a source? Well, you see the image there says nonsense. If you're using it as a research source, you're not looking at it to be amused. You're looking at it for information. So you want to be aware of things that use too much humor in them, although humor can be fun, obviously. But you're also guarding against things that make it appear that the person is not just relating facts, but drifting more into the opinion-based stuff. Because sometimes it can be misleading. Which leads us to this concern, bias. What is bias? It's when somebody reports something, says something that's basically following more their opinion. So we're going to discuss this issue of how can you guard against this and still use the story for what good and unique information it has. Well, you be aware that sometimes news might be biased in one direction or another. And you're just aware of that, and you're looking for the common facts that somewhat match up with other research on the topic you've been looking at. So again, they call that triangulation of information, where you're using sources to confirm each other. So you take the good out of the source, whether it's a newspaper or not, and eliminate the bias. Now you see in front of you some graphs that indicate that first one at the top is a comparison of a tone as in the field of network evening news coverage by party, and you can see there is a distinct difference between the way the evening news shows and the newspaper coverage is given to the different parties. And sometimes a newspaper supports one type of candidate and sometimes they support another one. You just have to be aware of basically their beliefs, their feelings, their thoughts, their worldview before you go and use it as a source. It doesn't mean you eliminate information, it means you're just very careful about it. What should you use when you're analyzing a news story? A format that you use over and over with different newspapers. Information gathering guide. Why do you want to do that? So you're comparing your sources on similar ways. Now, your sources, hopefully, if you're researching a certain topic, are following a similar topic. And it will help you in your research process if you do indeed follow a similar format. It's easier to sort through because remember, the whole skimming thing is not just in looking at the sources themselves. It's in looking at your notes so you can skim through and find the things that go together well as part of your research process. So now we're going to go and actually do some comparison work using the news analysis worksheet that is available for you to guide any effort you ever do with this. Okay. So what is the first question? What was the headline of the story? Well, this is a story from the New York Times of January 21st, 1890. And it's called An Italian Home, a movement in aid of Italy's immigrants to this country. It's descriptive. It tells you what it's about. It's not particularly engaging, like exciting and interesting, but it does do the job. So we would take that information. It's a PDF image, so we can't just like copy it. But we can use various technology tools here. We're using Snagit, and we can paste that in so we answer our question. What is something else we should put into a source analysis document? Yes, Mr. Stevens, the citation information. And this is text, so we can copy all of this, which also has the headline or the header in it, and we can paste that in as an extra thing, even above the questions before we start answering them. And we can make it bigger if we need to, but we're not going to take the time to do that right now. Then the second question is discuss the effectiveness of the headline in summarizing the story and getting the reader's attention. And based on having read that, I would say it does, excuse me for not looking at you, I have to look when I type. It does a good job of summarizing the of importance to the Italian community, not particularly engaging. I think that's true. Tells what it is, an Italian home, a movement in aid of Italy's immigrants to this country, but it's not real attention grabbing. Briefly describe the factual content of the story related to the lead 5 W's and H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. So who? One answer to who would be Italian immigrants. Another answer would be a movement has been in progress for some time among prominent Italian residents of the city, which is attracting no small amount of attention in diplomatic circles, official government people, diplomatic circles. About a year ago, when Giovanni P. Rivera came to this city as consul general from Italy, a diplomat, an official representative of the Italian government. So instead of typing or copying that and typing it out, we're going to actually use our tools that we have here. He was consul general from Italy. Then we're going to take this and put it into our note document. Helps to tell us who. And of course you would go through it answering all these other questions. Then we get down to number 4. How did the end of the story summarize the main ideas and provide closure to the reader? Well, let's go all the way down to the bottom of the story. And it says, all the Italian societies in the vicinity are in hearty accord, they agree, with the new movement for the elevation of their countrymen, and have signified their intention of contributing liberally a lot toward its maintenance. The movement is one that cannot but prove beneficial to the resident Italians of this city. It is a new departure, a new departure in Italians of this city. Is a new departure in government procedure. Sorry, I get mixed up there. And recommends itself to every government whose inhabitants are emigrating to this country in any number. So, how does the end of the story summarize the main ideas? States that here are one help there. Now, I said friends. You could put the word a different way. It's just they're willing to help the Italians that live here, people that are coming from their own country. So, facts in a news story are supposed to be arranged from most to least important. Do you believe the author did this effectively? Now, we're not going to do that right now, but you got to stop and think, why would that be beneficial? If they are arranged, it would help that way. It would help you analyze information better. It would also help you say, well, if this person organized their information in a thought-out way, perhaps it's more likely to be accurate. And then the writing style is important to keep in keeping those reading and listening to the story engaged. Have you ever read something that was boring? I think most of us have. If you're engaged in the process, you're more likely to do the work that's necessary and learn from it. But you see there's other guiding thoughts there. Seventh question, discuss the accuracy of the facts used in the story. Now, how are you going to do that if you haven't already done some work, some other research? That's why this is not intended to be a source to stand on its own. It's supposed to be in combination with other sources. And also you think, in what way did they use quotations? Because quotations can be a powerful thing in a research paper if you have the citation information. So, this document will help you analyze any newspaper, modern or historic, and help you add it into your data bag of information for a research project. So, that being said, we're going to sign off now, and I hope this helps you understand a little bit about using newspapers as research sources.